Hey everyone! So yesterday we threw off the hump pieces for a teacup and a tea saucer, and so the final result would look a lot like this. So nice foot we're going to trim today, and nice foot there we're going to trim today, and then we're going to put on a handle. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to trim our saucer. If you can take a look at that nice thick chunky foot there that we need to trim off. The first thing I want you to do is take a pen tool and go into the bottom of your saucer with your finger on the other side, and we're just going to press down until you meet the tip of your needle tool with your finger. And then you're going to mark your place and pull that out. That's how much clay I have to take off. So that's how much clay I have to play with. So we're probably going to take off, we want our bottom to be at about 1/4 of an inch. So we're probably going to take off about 1/2 an inch. So the first thing we need to do is put this in the center. And this takes a little bit for me. So using your fingers or your needle tool, we're going to start to see where the clay pushes against the tool. And that means that's the place that's closest to me. So I'm going to push away. And we're just going to keep doing this until there's a straight line all the way around. And again, if you don't want to put lines in your pot, I'm going to trim those off, but if you don't want to put lines in there, you can use your finger. And when the pot presses against your finger, that's when you're going to push away from you. That looks pretty good. Okay, I think that'll do it. So I've got a little extra clay here, and I'm just going to, excuse me, press little clay holders in 3 places. I usually use a triangular shape, like that. Okay, and then when you're trimming and when you're centering, that's the time for speed. So you can spin your wheel as fast as you can handle. To take off large amounts of clay, this is the tool I use. I got it in Japan. And you hold it like that in your hand, and then you're just going to hold it against your pot. And it takes off pretty large amounts at a time. I'll try to do it on this side so you can see, but I'm not really good well, I can't do that. I can kick the wheel the other way and do it that way. You always have to go with the clay. Your hand always has to go with the clay. And so you trim like this. Okay? But I'm not very good with that hand, so I'm going to go back the other way. Okay, so we're just going to trim off a big amount here. And know that we have to go down 1/2 an inch almost here. So we're going to start to take off some of this clay here. Okay? And then once I get a good amount of clay off, I'm going to start to use different smaller tools. Okay, so I like this tool. It's very, very sharp, and I like to use it to remove, again, a nice amount of clay. So we're just going to start to go in here. We're going to start to pull all this off here. This is when I usually stop and just kind of test with my finger by pushing on the clay to see if it gives a little bit. And this is giving a little bit, so I'm close to trimming as much off the side as I would like. So I'm going to start thinking about defining the foot. So we've already gotten started on the outside of the foot here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start rounding this over and just making a nice round foot. And then I usually take my needle tool and I'm just going to make a line here to show where I want to start my foot. And then I'll take a tool, a little Kemper tool, square top, and I'm just going to start pulling clay off of the inside. And I always use two hands together for support, and my arm is resting against my leg. Okay, and then again, I'm going to take a moment to just press in there. And when I press, that does not give it off, so we've got a lot more room to take off. So I'm going to get my speed back. And again, I'm just going to start trying to take a little bit more clay off. And this is becoming quite a tall foot, and I don't think I want a foot that tall, but I'm going to go ahead and fix the inside here and then worry about my foot, finishing up my foot. And sometimes your pieces just want all those little trimmings just want to stick in there. And you can get a nice soft brush and just brush those out. So you're not trying to capture them while you're wheel spinning, because they're kind of hard to capture. Okay, now it's starting to give a little bit. So that's about as far down as I'm going to want to go. And now I'm going to start working on the thickness of this foot. So I'm just going to go in and start thinning this out and rounding it over. Like that. And now I'm going to start to work on this out on the outside too. I'm just thinning it out a little bit. I like a thick foot, but not too thick. This one was pretty thick. And I don't want my foot to be too tall. Okay. That looks pretty good. I'll start to straighten this wall right here. And take out all the tool marks. Like that. And just check. Oh, did you see that? I just pushed that too far down. It's really pretty thin there, so I gotta be careful with that. I'll correct that little indentation when we pull this off the wheel. So now I'm gonna make sure this bottom is really nice and straight. And then I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to make this nice and smooth. So I'm just pressing the clay, making it nice and smooth. I'm going to take this tool. This seems to be a little bit bumpy here, so I'm going to take this tool and really flatten it out. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's take care of that indentation where I just stuck my finger in. I just roll these right off, stick them aside because you're going to use them for the cup part. Let me move this out of the way. So let's take this off and just kind of press that back out like that. And so there we have our saucer with our nice foot. Okay, so now for the cup, because we're going to trim the bottom of the cup and we want the cup to fit really nicely inside of this indention in the bottom of the teacup. So I'm going to take my calipers and measure that inside circle, and then I'm going to tighten them to make sure they stay put in place. Okay, so now we have our cup, and we're going to test that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my needle tool in, my fingers inside, and we've got a little bit less clay here, so we're not going to take off quite as much. And then we're just going to set this down for a second and kind of look at how much we have to take off here. So it's about a fourth of an inch on each side that we're going to need to take off. So let's get it centered. That feels pretty good. Let's check it. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so the clay that we used before, I just pulled it off the board, and we're just gonna again make little snakes and just attach the clay to the bottom. And with something a little bit taller, you're going to want to give that a little bit of a shake. I think I might need a little bit of extra clay there on the other side, just because it's a little bit tall. So we're going to put 4 down this time and give it a nice big tug. You don't want it to come up on you. And then again, I'm going to use this tool, and we're just going to pull off some of this clay real fast. See, I like this tool because all the things gather in the bottom of your hand, and you can just put them aside. Okay. Again, we're always testing with the calipers. We don't want to make it too small, because when it sits in here, it'll rock back and forth. And so we want to make it just perfect to fit in that nice saucer. Okay. We're going to start going down a little bit now because we're getting pretty close. I'm not ready to go all the way yet, so I'm going to start taking some of this clay off the bottom here. Always 2 hands on the pot when you're trimming. Okay. Yep, we're getting close, so I'm not going to go too much further down. So now we need to start defining our foot. So I'm going to make my little line here, and then you can do the same out here if you want to. I'm just going to start taking off some clay here, making the definition of our foot. And then I'll do that in the middle, and then we'll start to really measure the foot and make sure it fits inside the cup. Inside the saucer. So inside the cup, we talked about this, so it has a nice gentle slope in there. So there's a slope out here as well because the middle of the cup pushes further down than these sides do. So we're going to kind of mimic that on the outside foot. So we're going to go down a little bit further on the edges. And the middle part will be a little bit taller. I'm now starting to curve this foot around, and I want to again bring my calipers out. Let's check this again. Okay, and we've got a good bit that we've got to take off there. Oops. Close we are. So a lot of times I just pull my salsa and I'll stick it on and I'll turn my head over and look to see if it fits. And it looks like we can trim a little bit more. Just might do it. Almost. Just a little bit left to go. Okay. And I go slow when I'm trimming. I enjoy trimming. It's kind of meditative for me. So I just take my time. I'm just cleaning up this little rim here, this little foot. I like my feet to be really super smooth. Let's see. Almost. Just a little tiny bit more. And then we'll finish up this outside and inside, and then we'll put the handle on. Let's see. Let me see on this side. Whoops. I think it might be a good fit. Okay. So let's clean up the inside. Let me just see. Yeah, we can do that really, really quick. I actually created a nice little spiral here, and I like it, so I'm just going to leave it on there. But you can always smooth it right out if you'd like. But I like that little spiral. And I think we're done. Now we can put on the handle. Okay, so now we'll just take this off. And let's see if it fits. That's pretty good. Nice fit in there. It's a little bit loose. Probably didn't have to go quite so far, but I think it still will work out okay. So now we're going to take our handle. So let's just move this aside for a second, and let's bring this back up. So if you are a tea drinker, you know that you have to have a comfortable space between your finger and the wall of the cup. You don't want to have too much space, but you don't want it to feel tight. And you also don't want to have your finger touch the side of the teacup because it will be hot. And then also, we want to think about this area down here. You don't want to not have enough for your at least one finger to go in there, because you're going to bump into the plate or the saucer. And so you want to think about those two things as you're putting on your handle. Okay? So we'll move him aside. And then, because of turning your cup upside down, sometimes the rim gets a little misshapen. Just kind of readjust that a little bit. And I generally take my cup and I kind of feel around for the wettest side of the cup. And that's this right here. So I'm going to take my little scoring tool, just toothpicks and dental floss. And I'm going to score where I think my handle is going to be. Now, I always set it back down, kind of see if I'm going to have enough space there. You can kind of just stick your little handle on there just to see what it's going to be like. And then, of course, we're not going to attach. We're just going to kind of look at it. See, I have a nice, good amount of space here for my third finger. So I think that's going to work out pretty good. So I'm going to just wet this down with some water. Well, slip. There's a mosquito in here. And then I'm going to rescore. I like to score on top of slip just to make it nice and sticky. Then I'm going to take my handle. I'm just going to cut the top off. Oops, sorry. I'm just going to cut the top off there. And then I'm going to put my needle tool in the middle like that. And I'm going to press this clay out and this clay out like that. So it gives me a nice big space to attach to the teacup. And I'm just going to stick that on top of the scored area like that. And I'm going to kind of just create the shape that I think that I want of my handle. And then I'm just going to leave it just like that. It's nice and stuck. And then I'm going to try this again. So right now, there's too much space here. So I'm going to have to shorten that handle a little bit. So I'm going to pull up here a little bit, and that'll shorten it. And then I'm going to just take a little bit. I'm going to move this down just a little bit. And I know I can take that off. So I'm going to sit this back down. And it's home. And then let's see. See, that's not, it's going to shrink too. So that's a pretty good amount. Got plenty of room for this finger down here. And so I think that's pretty good. You want a nice place for your thumb to be. And I have a nice space for my thumb. So I'm just going to start to attach this handle now. So I'm going to pull all this clay down here. And turn it over and do it on the other side. And then I'm going to pull this clay up like this. Like And then I'm going to take this bottom part and I'm going to go across here and across here. And my fingers are always inside the cup as support. I'm just going to smooth this down like that. Okay, then I'm going to take some of this clay over here. It's probably not quite wet enough. So I got a little extra clay that's a little bit softer. So I'm going to make a snake. And I'm just going to put this all the way around. Going around the top, underneath, and through. Like that. Oops. Try not to maul your handle. And I'm going to start pushing the clay out all the way around. And this snake is just for extra security that the handle's not going to crack. I really believe that a handle is a very important part, and you want it to feel good to your hand. And it's really disappointing when you spend this much time making a saucer, a teacup, and doing all the trimming, and then your handle cracks. So I like to do this little extra job. So I'm just going to I'm taking this little knife, a little wooden knife, and I'm just helping the clay press up against the handle. Like that. Okay, and we're going to fix this now. Don't worry. Okay, and then I'm going to do one for the bottom. So we're sticking that in there like that and bringing it down the side and across, and then again on this side and across like that. And then we're just going to spread the clay out. Okay, and now we're just going to finish this little guy up. So I'm going to take a sponge and I'm just going to start to wipe all this down. And just making it nice and smooth. Try really hard when you go underneath the handle not to move the handle. You don't want to change the shape. I'm just going to get this pretty good and then fuss later because I don't want to take up too much of your time. So then we're going to just make sure that the rim is still round, and because it was on the bat, you just want to smooth out any kind of little nicks that it got or any kind of little problems there. I'm going to set that aside. We're going to do the same for our salsa. We're just going to do the rim. Make it nice and soft. And then we're just going to take a look. And I like to try the handle one more time before I totally commit. And that feels really nice. Nice amount of room in both places. And I think it's a nice little cup and saucer. Alright guys, thanks for watching.